Welcome back to Cinemavino.
Hey.
Take two, because my dog started yelping.
Hey.
So, we got Sean Jordan.
Hi.
Travis Bud.
What up?
So, our next installment in our Halloween series, we're going to look at American Werewolf in London.
It's full moon tonight.
Yeah, it's huge. Perfect.
It is. It's almost full moon.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah, tomorrow's like the hunter's moon.
Yeah, this is like a waning gibbous.
I don't think it is. I think it's waxing.
I just like to say that. I just like to say waning gibbous.
That full moon's going to be about 14% bigger.
Mm-hmm. That's what I hear.
Yeah, it's because
14% bigger.
Global warming.
Yeah.
On account of the perigees or pericomos.
So we're drinking Toki Suntory whiskey from Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't this a scotch?
And so basically, it's like in the style of scotch, but made in Japan.
Suntory has won scotch competitions, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm. I've liked all of the Japanese whiskeys I've had. They've all been really, really good. A lot of them are really, really high dollar. This one's about $40, so not a bad price.
I always think about how light in color it is compared to like a lot of scotches are really like caramely, really brown. This is a very clean, kind of light bodied. Yeah.
It doesn't even seem like it has a real kind of a thinner like body to it. It's not even real like heavy and dense like a real scotch could be like.
Good.
Yeah, it's nice. It makes it real smooth. So we're gonna watch American Werewolf in London. We're gonna talk about it. Had you guys seen? I know Travis has seen this before.
Yes, I've seen this before.
Okay.
Yep.
This is probably my second or third time to see it, so I'm not a real heavy hitter with it. So.
Sean and I were talking. I think it was on both of our lists.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out
independently
whose pick this was because I think I had it on my list. I think he had it on his list, but ultimately I think Exorcist was my pick. And then
yeah, I forgot. I kept thinking that Taylor had a different pick. I thought it was Exorcist was his.
And Faculty was yours.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was this your pick?
No, mine was the Grindhouse combo for Halloween.
So maybe this was just a consensus pick.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, you guys might have like a little Lady in the Tramp moment where you just start eating that one noodle and
I'll eat your meatball.
Just kind of met. So this was released August 21st, 1981. It grossed $62 million against a $6 million budget. So
it's pretty good.
Pretty good return.
Good numbers.
This was directed by John Landis.
Who's broadly known for his comedies.
Exactly.
Well, I was going to say, John Landis is Blues Brothers.
Yeah. He's known for his broad comedies. Yeah, but he is broadly
comedies about broads, or
sure.
Okay.
But yeah, Animal House, Blues Brothers, Three Amigos, Trading Places.
I was weirded out when I kept seeing this referred to as a horror comedy on like IMDb and everywhere I was looking. I was like, this is not a comedy. No, there's nothing funny about this movie.
Well, there's a lot of comedic elements. It's a lot funnier than I remembered it being.
There's comedic elements of like just conversations, kind of like, I don't know.
Well, it's like the guy. I mean, it's like where you have the gradual conversation with the dude who's rotting. It's like that's almost like a Mel Brooks thing where he's gradually like falling apart.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, everybody knew John Landis from all those other movies. So I heard that when they went and saw it in theaters, everybody thought it was going to be a hilarious comedy. They were like, "Oh, this is going to be great!" And all of a sudden, they're on the moors. They're like, "Oh, this is starting out kind of weird." And then the werewolf shows up, and everybody was like, "Oh shit!" All these jump scares left and right.
Yeah,
and everybody's like, "Oh, this is not the movie I wanted."
That wolf is terrifying. That's a scary wolf to see out on the moors.
What'd you say it made?
62 million?
62, yeah.
Out of
$6 million budget. So
shit.
And I think 1981 money, that's pretty good.
1,000% return.
And it was all filmed
in England?
I watched the credits and I cannot remember it.
What's John Landis' nationality? Is he American?
He's American. So yeah, this was based on a script that he wrote actually 10 plus years beforehand when he was a PA on a movie called Kelly's Heroes with, I believe it was Clint Eastwood in that, or maybe Lee Marvin. I get it mixed up. Anyway, it's an old war movie that he was the PA on when he worked in like Eastern Europe, somewhere like Bavaria, and he came up with the idea of making this movie from working on that set. So, very simple plot. Two college kids backpacking through Europe. They're out in the English moors. They happen upon a pub, which probably has the unfriendliest people in this pub.
Oh, what's the pub's name? It's like
Slaughtered Lamb.
Yeah, Slaughtered Lamb.
Yeah, I mean,
all right. Well, and I thought most pubs had like a hotel or like had rooms to rent.
Yeah,
attached to them most of the time,
like an inn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like this has that sort of like Twilight Zone kind of feel, or X-Files or whatever, where it's like, there's no rooms here tonight. You can't stay here. All those kind of places are very hostile to whoever's in the plot. And of course, it requires that the two heroes be kind of oblivious to that and not take any alarm to it, and so they just,
Hey, what's that star on the wall?
yeah. Is that a pentagram?
They call it a pentangle.
Why do they keep calling it a pentangle?
I don't know.
That must be a British thing.
No, that's what the Americans were calling it. They kept calling it a pentangle, like it was some 1981 pentagrams didn't exist. It was pre-Satanic Panic.
Pentangle.
It's a good old pentangle. I guess the Satanic Panic did sort of like change a lot of language.
Well, I think in like
the 90s.
tarot cards, I think one of the suits is like pentacles, and I don't know if that's the same thing or not. I have no clue.
Yeah,
I think in Greek it's actually pronounced Pentacles.
Ooh, I was saying pentacles are kind of like testicles that are shaped in kind of with
Penis.
5 sides. Yeah,
I think in Greek it's
five-sided
testicles.
Who was one of the great heroes in ancient Greece? Yeah, you just don't get too close to him when he's in combat.
Mm-hmm. So he's swinging around,
a little bit stanky. So anyway. Yeah, so they get issued cryptic warnings about, staying off the roads and being careful at night. And again, if you get that kind of stuff at a bar like that, you got to be alarmed, especially if you're in a movie.
To the roads.
Yeah.
It's like a group version of an old man with a rusty pitchfork going, "You don't go down there."
Yeah, it's exactly reminded me of Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
Where they have, what do they call it?
The Harbinger.
The Harbinger, yeah. They're like, not a lot of folk need to come around here. Like, they're to scare you off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a trope, definitely in horror movies. Mm-hmm. Predictably, the two boys, Jack and David,
just objectively go off the road immediately. They're like, stay on the road.
Just oblivious.
Beware of the moon.
Yeah, for no reason.
And the first thing they do is they're like, walking on the road. We're just randomly going off the road.
Hey, let's also sing really loudly.
Yeah.
They're American.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, again, predictably, they get mauled by a mysterious beast. Jack is killed. David gets maimed. He goes into a coma, and he wakes up in a hospital in London.
He almost leaves his friend behind.
21 days later.
21 days later.
Almost leaves his friend behind, and then has a change of heart.
That was a weird twist, I thought, where it's like he runs off, almost, leaves him to be destroyed, then turns back and gets maimed in the process.
And yet all the village people came out and shot the wolf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no silver bullet. What in the fuck?
And if it was the actual village people, I would give this movie a whole extra point.
Stop right there, you woof.
It's like, oh my God, it's a police officer and a construction worker and a Native American.
Honestly, and
a cowboy?
Yeah.
If they could have done that the whole time, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm. And a biker?
They just needed bait. That's what they were doing.
We'll get to that in a minute. I've got some issues with this movie. He wakes up and then he's got a handsome Silver Fox soap opera doctor and a pretty young nurse.
Dude, that doctor was handsome. Mm-hmm.
He definitely had the General Hospital handsome doctor.
He was a looker.
Yeah, so that he is
John Woodvine.
Yeah,
Dr. J.S. Hirsch.
And John Woodvine sounds like the name.
That's a great name
of the doctor in the General Hospital type. Like, paging Dr. Woodvine.
Yeah, I'd get piped by him. No problem.
It's like, yes, nurse.
Time for your injection.
Bring me my stethoscope. He has these two people looking after him. She takes an immediate liking to him. Kind of Florence Nightingale syndrome.
Super fast, too.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. It's like
he's got a cute
accent.
He
had no game. He was just and then she was like, why don't you come back to my place?
And that's an issue in the next movie we're going to watch, Salem's Lot, where it's like that happens a little bit fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll talk about that in the next episode. But so he gets visited by the decaying corpse of his buddy Jack, who tells him that he has now been transformed into a werewolf who will, at the next full moon, change. Only way he can break this is to commit suicide and basically end the line of werewolves. Mm-hmm. So once he gets released from the hospital, he and his new girlfriend, Alex, they try to figure out...
Well, they're not putting labels on it,
Yeah, whatever they are. Friends.
Situationship.
Yeah.
That's what the kids are calling it these days.
I like that.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Situationship.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
So basically they have to figure out whether or not Jack's appearance was real, whether or not his warning was real, what they need to do about it. and that is the balance. It's basically building to the next full moon. It's a long, slow build up until he inevitably transforms. So I'm curious to see what you guys think, having seen it before, probably more than me.
Actually, I want to hear you first. You hardly ever go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Again, I'm probably the best person to go first, just because I'm the...
Yeah, I think you've probably seen it the least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So my opinion is this is about 2/3 of a really good movie. About 2/3 of the way in, it's pretty good. And like you said, I think that there's some kind of comedic elements to it that get put in there. I mean, not necessarily straight out comedy, but there's some funny parts to it. It definitely, there's elements of it that it doesn't take itself too seriously. The monster effects are incredible, especially for that time period. I love those old school practical effects of, the guy transforms into a werewolf and there's no CGI, so they got to do it the old fashioned way.
Yeah,
it's fun to watch that kind of stuff and to try to figure out how they did that. Michael Jackson was watching this and later used the same director and creature guy to do Thriller, the video.
Did John Landis too?
John Landis directed that video.
And that was 82, right? Thriller?
83.
Thriller was 84, I think.
Yeah, Thriller was 84?
Mm-hmm. The album itself came out in 82. That video was either 83 or 84.
Oh.
So my biggest beef with this movie, and it's more of like a structural, like creative issue with it, is the way that Landis wrote the movie. He kind of puts himself into a corner, a creative corner of like, okay, so you're going to be in this werewolf, and the only way that this spell can be broken is you have to kill yourself. And so that leaves him with two options on how to end the movie. The first option is that ends with him committing suicide, and that's the end of your movie.
That's a depressing ending.
Yeah. And then option two is he figures out a loophole or a cheat or like some kind of deus ex machina and get out of it, in which case your whole plot's been pointless. And so they kind of fudge that at the end by doing some kind of suicide by cop thing. It kind of, they kind of hedge their bets. And the movie doesn't really have a firm ending. It doesn't end. It just stops.
Yeah.
It just kind of hits a wall and then splats to the ground.
It's the King Kong ending.
I totally agree with that. Like, I was watching that thing and somebody going to walk up like, it was beauty that killed the beast.
Yeah. Well, they say it also, like, and ever since you mentioned it, for The Dark Knight Rises, where they're like, oh yeah, Alfred tells you how the movie's going to end, like an hour before it happens. Mm-hmm. He sees Bruce sitting in a cafe somewhere, and they pretend not to know each other. They just nod.
Yeah.
And they say the same thing in this movie, and he says, a werewolf has to be killed by someone that loves him. And he says, I love you to her later on. And she doesn't say it back until the very end. She's like, David, is that you? He's a crazy ass werewolf. She goes, I love you. And then he jumps, and then they shoot him, and he dies, and then she's crying. Boom. That's Fay Ray. That's King Kong. Roll credits.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very strange ending to the movie. It's a very abrupt.
I think he really does a good job of building up the tension in the first 2/3, and then the third act just releases the tension, but not in a very constructed way.
Yeah.
There's no real like conflict that gets resolved. It's just okay. The movie's over.
It's just like blam, credits.
We resolved the conflict through just eliminating it.
And if you're introducing like the undead, and you're introducing purgatory and these crazy things and pentangles, and all of a sudden you have all that, and then you say, okay, you have to commit suicide, and you're like, wait a minute, if I commit suicide, and apparently heaven exists in this world, like for sure, because all this other shit exists, like, aren't I not going to get into heaven just because I got bitten? That's kind of hosed. But I wonder.
Yeah, we don't know how that works.
Yeah.
Who knows?
What are the rules?
Yeah.
So what would you give it?
I would give this a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
So I enjoyed a lot of it. I really did.
What about as just a werewolf movie? Is this the best werewolf movie you've ever seen? Is it? It can't be the worst.
No,
because Howling 7 exists.
No. I mean, I would say it's definitely better than the Jack Nicholson, Michelle Pfeiffer werewolf movie.
Let me ask another question. Do you have a favorite werewolf movie?
Yeah, Todd.
Yeah, everybody has, like, they're like, oh, on a date, fuck all the other questions. Ask what their favorite dinosaur is. Mm-hmm. Mine is, what is your favorite werewolf movie?
Yeah, I'd say this one's definitely definitely the best contemporary one.
Does it have to be exclusively werewolves?
Just werewolves, yeah, like a werewolf movie.
I do love how they treated them in the Harry Potter series with Azkaban. Was it Professor Lupin or whatever?
Yeah,
Turns into a werewolf.
He always kind of seemed like
broke.
a punk to me. He was like tiny,
Seemed like a little bitch to me.
tiny dingle werewolf.
Yeah.
I want that big dick werewolf.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the Howling, and then I like the Wolfman from like Monster Squad, but that's not a by itself like werewolf.
Yeah, he's more of a wolf
Yeah.
man.
What about
Dog Soldiers was
Lon Chaney Jr. walking with the Queen?
Yeah, I like those. I like the original Wolfman.
I was gonna say I like
But it's
the
just as-
werewolf
it's
depiction
cool.
in Underworld, but it's
Oh, yeah.
it's vampire werewolf
No, that's
situation.
That works though because it is,
Right.
two different factions. But I'm just saying, Monster Squad, it's the Wolfman plus all the other one. It's not a werewolf. Sorry,
I will say that the Werewolves of London was in my head the entire time.
Ooh, werewolves.
It's like,
London.
God damn, that's a good song.
There's a sequel to this,
Hair
movie,
was
right?
perfect.
American Werewolf in New York.
Paris.
Or Paris, yeah.
Not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And it's got Skitch Patterson from That Thing You Do in it. And it was very CGI. It was,
Which takes away a lot from, I think, the what made this one so great. So,
Travis, what do you think?
This is one of the best werewolf movies. Now, this has the best werewolf transformation. Now, I've not seen
Hard,
In
yes.
the Company of Wolves. I've heard that one's very interesting, where like the the wolf pops out through somebody's mouth and then like sheds the skin.
Yeah, I have seen that. That's really good.
I've seen part of it. I haven't seen the full movie,
But this transformation is like the iconic werewolf transformation.
Yes.
It's pre CGI. It's all practical effects.
and this is why I like the first Fright Night movie. 'Cause
I
you
like
have,
I like this movie purely for this transformation scene.
yes,
Yeah.
But you have Evil Ed in Fright Night, who is in like a wolf form. He gets staked, and they spend all that time showing him like reverting to human. And that one's also like side by side. They're just phenomenal. It's
pretty good.
Especially for the time. Yeah, no CGI. They put in the work.
yeah.
But yeah, the beginning of this movie is my favorite part. You really like Jack and David as friends, like just palling around, just fucking around. I love the time at the bar at the beginning. All the actors there. The one guy looks like Goldfinger
Yeah.
a little bit.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
I will say this movie is not an advertisement for visiting England.
No.
No.
It is not a UK tourism ad.
They were in Northern England, weren't they?
Yeah.
In the moors.
But there is a lot of comedy in there because with David and Jack back and forth, and then later on the bumbling cops. There's always the second cop that's asking questions afterwards, and his boss is like, "Would you shut up?"
Yeah.
And then they're leaving, and his boss walks out the door and closes it, and the guy behind him is like, "Yeah, we'll find him, no problem." And he turns around and he's like, "Oh, the door's closed." Just it's like little moments, but there's so much tension that like it never quite cuts the tension, but it makes you do like a chuckle, like like nothing super laugh out loud funny. A lot of close-ups of like Mickey and Minnie Mouse.
I noticed that. I did. That was weird.
Yeah. And yeah, super weird that the nurses. And all of the weird dream sequences. Him having like these funny ass
like
dreams
running through the woods and
then crazy. I guess they looked to me like they were in Nazi garb, Nazi werewolves.
Oh, you forgot when the Nazis come into the house.
Yeah.
Shoot up everybody.
Because keep in mind, he's Jewish.
They did not skimp on the blood budget. Is he Jewish?
There was a whole thing. Yeah, there was a whole thing in the hospital where she was like, "He's Jewish." I checked.
Oh yeah.
Which is
And then
scandalous.
And then when the Nazis bust into the house, there's menorah in the background.
Oh,
So I think that adds to a layer
Okay.
of the Nazi
interesting. I
enemy,
didn't think of that.
Yeah.
But it also
which also means there's no hell.
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know stuff about religion. I don't know things. But it reminded me of the fake werewolf trailer of Rob Zombie and Death Proof, the werewolf women of the SS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What an awesome title.
Yeah, I still want that to be a full movie.
Yeah.
No, you
Yeah,
don't. Every movie that got turned into a full movie off those trailers was terrible.
What? Don't you like Thanksgiving?
No.
I thought
I
you liked how
love
bad it
Thanksgiving,
was.
but I hate Thanksgiving.
Oh, but you love how much.
And then you
you
got
hate it.
Thanksgiving 3, The Hunt for Thanksgiving 2.
and Machete.
Machete. Yeah.
Didn't Eli Roth?
What was the
Eli
what was
Roth
the tire?
was the thing.
Was it rubber? Did that come out on one of the trailers?
Oh, the tire?
The killer tire?
Oh, I think they did a different trailer, so it wasn't tied to Death Proof and the other
Okay,
ones,
yeah.
but it was a different. Anyway,
I'm getting mixed up. We'll get there.
Yeah, all the little dream sequences were interesting, especially the dream within a dream sequence. They're like, oh man, that was a fucked up dream. I was like, oh,
and then
I've got just what you need. And just blood here, blood there, blood everywhere. Yeah, and all the middle part. But yeah, you're right. The absolute best part is the full transformation, which is all of like 3.5, 4 minutes.
This movie was on my list just for that transformation, just to talk about that scene.
Yeah. But I love just the very beginning too, because he's just sitting there reading a book, and there's like no preamble. It's just like all of a sudden, bam, and then he's in it, and you're like, oh no, what's happening? And I was like, oh, that's a lot of ass. And then
it is.
His clothes disappeared. Where did they go?
Yeah, they kind of went like Hulk style, where it's like you got to wonder, like,
just ripping them off.
Yeah,
he didn't even rip them off; they just disappeared.
Yeah.
What? Oh, in the transformation sequence?
Yeah, I think
no, he ripped them off before. He goes, God, I'm so hot, and he ripped off his shirt, and then he just dropped trowel.
But I think in the other transformation, his clothes just disappeared, don't they?
Oh.
Which, side note, you got to think that for like the Hulk movies, they have to plan ahead for that. I'm like, at some point, he's going to be wearing like some regular old Dockers and transform. He's going to be fucking nude.
Just wearing like khakis?
Yeah, he's going to be like Hulk Dong.
Hulk's got a
swinging out.
Like,
his wolf dork?
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so this American Werewolf in London, I give a 7.5. For werewolf movies, it's like a 9.5. It's one of the best.
It's definitely one of the iconic werewolf movies.
So as a horror movie, straight out, what would you give it?
I'd give it an 8.5. A werewolf movie, 9.5. Overall, 7.5.
There you go.
Gave 3 scores, but you know.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little different. So I give it probably like a 7 as an overall movie, because the effects are awesome. The story, like you said, kind of lackluster in the third act. John Landis does his darndest to just make sure as many cars crash into each other as possible.
Always.
Oh my God, that chase scene, he just like, it was full on Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Well, I like how they didn't skimp it, because normally the werewolf thing happens away in the woods and nobody's around. There are no witnesses. This one was all witnesses.
Yeah, it's nothing but... Well, and that's the whole point, is that like this has been going on for so long in the moors that by the time he gets to London, you know, the curse has escaped northern England, and it can't be contained because it's so populated. So as soon as a werewolf is there, he terrorizes. He rips up 6 people in the first night and just wakes up in a zoo.
And he's all randy.
He's randy. He feels better than he's ever felt before.
God, he's got to be so brave being in that, like the actor being in the cage with
wolves.
just a dingle out, and you know, I'm sure trained wolves, but like,
Mommy,
still, he had
a naked man stole my balloons.
Yeah. And so again, you got comedic elements of him running around with a bunch of balloons.
Yeah.
Stealing the jacket, yeah.
I would have torn my sack. I'm just saying, trying to jump up out of that zoo.
Yeah.
The comedic elements are definitely there. The special effects, this movie is iconic for the transformation. I mean, all of that practical effects. I think this was one of the last, like, because it really starts getting into CGI after this, right? This is really one of the last big practical effects movies.
Well, no, this was
81. So you had like you had a few more. You had Fright Night. I really feel like another one was Bram Stoker's Dracula with Coppola. That was another practical effects. They did a lot.
Oh yeah.
Really good makeup effects in that one.
We potted on that one, right?
We did.
Yeah.
My question for you guys is...
But it's makeup effects and not like practical transformation effects.
They did a lot of both. There was a lot of both of like cool stuff. They did like how to do like the vampire mist and stuff.
And they used a lot of old like 20s and 30s like forced perspective and like inverting and a lot of foreground.
They did a lot of the cool stuff they did with like the Bela Lugosi type movies. But so you got this supernatural creature who's obviously, you know, he transforms into this, you know, big mythic beast, and he can be killed by bullets. Is that normal?
Yeah. I mean, I think the lore is kind of all over the place, you know. Yeah, silver bullets is the accepted lore, but
yeah, I thought it was interesting. They've introduced a whole like undead victims and purgatory and all this other stuff, and you have to commit suicide to release us all. Well, and then in the theater, he goes, "But shouldn't I get a silver bullet?" And his dead best friend is like, "Oh God, come give me a break."
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, you're an undead fiend, and you're telling me
if you don't exist in a continuity that's been established, you can kind of create your own rules. Yeah. And we'll kind of get into this a little bit with Salem's Lot, but like, you can kind of play with what's canon, what the rules are if you're making the movie, and you can really easily write around like, you don't need a silver bullet. That's just not how that works. That's a myth.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now that's a myth.
Mm-hmm.
But silver, I guess, is supposed to be like pure, and then somehow it's
yeah. So
it has
that was also
connections with like the moon, or
that was also the background for why vampires couldn't see themselves in mirrors, is because mirrors were made of silver, and so because mirrors were silverback, they couldn't see the reflection off the silver.
Yeah,
and it was also
glass mirrors,
because
doesn't
this might have been Dracula 2000, but it was because Judas Iscariot took 30 pieces of silver, and so therefore, like in some myths, that Judas Iscariot was one of the first vampires, and that's why vampires can't, touch silver or whatever, is because they are cursed to never have what they were seeking or whatever in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a werewolf movie, like you said, I agree. I think this is a 9 for a werewolf movie. As a horror movie, I give this like a 5.5. It's not scary. It's a very entertaining movie. There's some jump scares for sure.
Yeah.
I don't, unless you're scared of gore, unless you're scared of like, some blood flying and some jump scares, I don't get horror-y vibes the way I do with like Exorcist, which is
I really didn't
10 out of 10 horror for me.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Yeah. But,
So overall,
I'd give it a 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So?
Yeah, it's a 7 movie. I think it has a good, it's an iconic movie. It's got a good place in history. It's entertaining. I would rewatch it again. It's got a lot of rewatchability.
Yeah.
You pick up on new things each time you watch it.
There's nipples in it.
There's nipples in it.
They sit in a porn theater.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
What's not to like?
Which, if you're getting weird looks in a porn theater, like you got something going on.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, real quick, I know we're about to end, but what does the quintessential horror movie need to have in it? It needs to have teenagers having sex. It needs to have nudity. It needs to have like blood/gore. It's got to have, well, at least cool special effects or interesting effects. I mean, it could just be a Michael Myers slasher or something.
I don't think it needs to have a checklist. I think it's really just vibes. Horror.
For me, it needs nipples.
We know, and that's true for all things in life.
It has to have the right aesthetic. Put it that way.
It's got to have the right vibe. It's just a vibe. I could probably put a rubric around it, but
I guess I always think 80s films like that. 80s
well, and there's like 80s slashers, and there's like 80s, the 80s popcorn horror movies. But like The Exorcist is a legitimately scary movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Unsettling.
Unsettling movie. Like when we did Insidious. I think Insidious is another really good horror movie. It's got all the good aesthetics of horror without being too over the top on a lot of the things.
Is that the weird red face?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ironically, I think Midsummer is also
great horror.
An unsettling
great horror
movie. Yeah.
The Witch, great horror movie. It's really unsettling, and I think there's a lot of different categories of horror, and I think anytime we start when we start pulling together movies for October, you tend to go monster, I tend to go more horror, and Todd tends to go wherever the fuck Todd gets.
Yeah.
Todd doesn't like horror movies.
I don't, and I'm sorry, but to each their own. I want to talk about real quick Flaviar.com, our latest sponsor. They do a lot of whiskeys. They do all kinds of spirits. I mean, anything you like, rum, gin, tequila, you can find it there. They lean heavily into whiskey. It's a great place if you want to buy a gift for somebody. If you have a whiskey drinker in the family, it's a good place to go.
Christmas is coming up.
Yep. If you want to sign somebody up for a monthly whiskey, it's about $40 a month. They get a brand new whiskey, $7.50. If you yourself like one, you want to treat yourself.
Whiskey of the month.
Treat yourself.
$40 a month is not bad.
Not bad. You get a nice
full size bottle.
You get a full size bottle.
Spread.
Yeah.
Damn.
I like it nice.
But yeah, they will. You can get samples. You can get all kinds of stuff. So it's
like a whole charcuterie board.
That's nice because like I always want to try different stuff, and I don't want a full size bottle of everything.
Yeah. So yeah, Flaviar.com /Cinemavino. Use promo code Cinemavino10. That's 10. You get 10% off of any purchase of $100 or more. It's a pretty good deal.
Not bad.
So yeah,
not bad.
This has been another episode of Cinemavino. We thank you guys very much. We've got T-Bud.
Oh, yo.
And Sean Jordan.
Howdy.
And my name is Todd Wofford. And great movies, Only Drunker. We will see you guys next time.
Bye.